dita dhra gheting rikting ta ka dhra na na khau dita khatita ka naramanang manang dita khatita ka naramanang manang ghe dita khatita ka naramanang manang na dita khatita ka naramanang manang khau dita khatita ka dita khatita ka ghe dita khatita ka na dita khatita ka tingrik na khatingrik na gheri na tini na ghena khati dhra khra dita dha ghe tingrik ta ka dhra khra dita dhra ti dhra ghe tingrik ta ka dhra. Bhagiyati. This is how the apprentices at the apprenticeship program of Tahnani Dapha Khalah start and end their sessions. Bhagiyati, a warm Dafa greetings to everyone. I am grateful to be attending this conference and sharing with you all about Dafa music tradition and its role in securing the well-being of Newar individuals and community. I am Pushpa Palanchoke, an applied ethnomusicology scholar from Nepal. Since 2015, I've been meeting and recording community musicians from a variety of ethnic communities from Nepal. I observed that community music practices, particularly those based on agriculture lifestyle and indigenous values, are going extinct. In the year 2019, I decided to institutionalize my concerns for music culture sustainability and took an initiative for a community music program called Folk Lok in support of a community-based arts institute, Satori Center for the Arts. Starting in the year 2020, we came in contact with the Newar community music group Tahnani Dapha Khalah. Tahnani Dapha Khalah is a traditional group of Dafa music playing men from an ancient town of Kirtipur. Dafa culture is common to most Newar indigenous communities. For the past half-decade, however, the tradition has been on the decline. In this presentation, I shall inform you about the impacts of Hindu Brahmanical colonialism on the tradition and the agency taken up by Tahnani Dapha Khalah, my local partners, to decolonize their traditional modes of pedagogy. So let me begin by introducing you to Newar indigenous people. The indigenous Newars have been living in the Kathmandu Valley for over 2 millennia. Their language, Nepal Bhasha, is a Tibeto-Burman dialect that has been in use since at least the 5th century. By the 14th century, the language was the dominant language spoken in the Newar kingdoms of the Kathmandu Valley and its surrounding areas, collectively known as Nepal Mandala. Newar rule over the Kathmandu Valley ended in 1769 after the kingdoms of Nepal Mandal were conquered by the expanding Gorkhali Empire. The Saha kings from Gorkha relocated their capital to Kathmandu. The current nation-state of Nepal took shape after the Gorkhali Empire's defeat in the Anglo-Nepal War in 1816. By that time, Newars had developed a sophisticated culture and way of life over many centuries. Their long connections with the empires of the Gangetic Plains and those of the Tibetan Plateau through art, religion, and commerce allowed them to develop a distinct civilization based on the unique geography and ecology of the Kathmandu Valley. Dafa is a community-based practice that is intertwined with the urban, spiritual, and seasonal lifestyle of the Newars who continue to keep up this tradition. Traditionally, the Dapha Khalah is a group of men from the same community who come together to sing. Specifically, Dafa is a genre of Newar music that is based on a complex raga and tala system. Each song is based on rag khayegu, a formation similar to singing rag alap in Hindustani classical music. The main singer, the guru, In the beginning of each song, sings syllables like he, ta, ra, na in a specific melodic pattern that gives a hint of the overall melody of the song. Unlike a raga performance, however, dafa performances are definitive and structured with no room for melodic improvisation. The dafa tala system, based on metrical cycles, binds the group singing. Most dafa songs are composed to a composite form of rhythmic patterns called the gwara, which is played on the key or barrel drum. The gwara is a combination of two or more than two dafa tals. The ta, a high-pitched cymbal, acts as a metronome indicating each beat in a metric cycle, while the baucha, another thin-plated cymbal, fills in between. The complex polyrhythmic patterns of these instruments helps dafa singers enter into a flow state as they sing from a safu. The singers in a Dafa Khalah sing songs based on takes that have been handed down for generations in a safu, a book, or a manuscript. These manuscripts have songs dating as far back as the 12th century. These songs are on a variety of topics including love and romance, tragedy and revelations, nature and farming, crops and harvest, fruits and flowers, and prayers to various deities. Now I'm going to play a video from a session that is part of a month-long program held in the 4th month of Pohela of the Newar calendar. The song in the video is on Lord Karunamoy Machindranath, who is believed to be the Lord of compassion and prosperity. The song is indicative of a folklore that revolves around the story of a Saint Gorakhnath who invited Lord Machindranath to Nepal Mandala from Assam, today one of the Indian states, when the valley suffered drought. In the song, the Lord is being praised and welcomed to the valley. In the video, you will see an interaction between Dapha Khalah and the Newar community. It is visible how Dapha Khalah, through their songs, amplifies transference of devotion and community values among Newars. The video will also give you a glimpse of Folk Lok programs' engagement with the local group.
Hey
In the past, each neighborhood had their own Dapha Khalah. They played an important role in the annual festivals that marked the Newar calendar. Dafa Khalahs accompany sacred dances, dramas, performances, and are a part of celebratory processions. To give you an example, Tahnani Dapha Khalah brings out a ritualistic dance performance called the Devi Pyakha, meaning the dance of goddesses. The procession is conducted every year on the 11th month of the Newar calendar. It features max dances representing the gods and goddesses of the city, accompanied by dafa music as they move through the streets, blessing people with prosperity and well-being. Besides such huge public events, the Dafa Khalahs also partake in private events like life rights celebrations of community members as the musical accompaniment. Flute ensembles with key, the dafa barrel drum, are regarded best fit for such events. For all of these varied activities and functioning of Dafa Khalah, the god of music, beauty and aesthetics, Nasadya, retains a central role. There is a direct relationship between the musicians, their community, and Nasadya. In most spaces, Nasadya is mostly represented just as a cavity, a triangle, circle, square, or rectangle that is pressed against a shrine. Although Nasadya is understood to be looking after everyone in the community, until recently not everyone from the community could participate in Dafa apprenticeship. In the past, only boys from the community were allowed to join the apprenticeship programs of the Dafa Khalah, and the apprenticeship itself was conducted in secrecy and followed strict restrictions. Apprentices were forbidden from speaking about what they learned and did within the Akachi with anyone else outside. Any form of transcribing the music or the song was also prohibited. This restrictive and secretive nature of Dafa was a result of colonial rule. Since the Gorkhali conquest of the Kathmandu Valley, the indigenous community came under an orthodox Hindu Brahmanical system followed by the Saha kings of Gorkha. In 1850s, the Rana Prime Minister of Nepal codified this system in Nepal's first civil code, the Muluki Ain. The system was built on the basis of the Hindu caste system, and the indigenous Newars were placed lower into this system. The Ranas also shifted away from patronizing the cultural practices of the Kathmandu Valley in favor of British and Western culture. They replaced local music ensembles and systems with English military brass bands and European piano music, and stopped most of the state patronage for the art and culture of the Newars. This led to devaluation of indigenous knowledge. This was further exacerbated by the introduction of Nepali medium government schooling in the mid-20th century that sought to replace all indigenous languages. The Muluki Ain shaped local indigenous peoples' understanding of the dichotomies between higher and lower caste and insiders and outsiders to culture. Women were denied rights to land ownership and decision-making and were broadly barred from participating in any social collectives. The Hindu Brahmanical patriarchal lens considers women's public appearance as highly inappropriate and associate their musical engagement as equivalent to prostitution. In addition to this, publications and the use of the Newar language, Nepal Bhasa, remained criminalized till the end of the 20th century, fueling fears and restrictions over knowledge and sharing within the language. This pushed local traditions further behind secret doors. Such secretiveness, in the long run, became the norm, which undervalued the exercise of creativity in the text and the music. In addition to such colonial impact, rapid urbanization has disrupted the traditional lifestyle based on agriculture. In the past, Dafa groups financed their activities through the produce from communal agricultural lands managed by a local guti, a community organization set up to support specific communal activities. The gutis that support Dafa groups have mostly lost their land to state appropriation. This has put Dafa practice under considerable financial constraint. The cultural hegemony of the West has meant that youth are increasingly drawn away from traditional forms of music and ways of being. As a result, Dafa practice today is characterized by fewer routine sessions, lost music repertoires, fewer apprenticeships, and decreasing participation. Amidst this crisis, Tahnani Dapha Khalah has undertaken a process of decolonization by reasserting the importance and validity of their music group and its long ties to the ancient cultures and spaces in the city of Kirtipur in Nepal. The Khalah has also been able to tap into the newly formed local governments that have resulted from the Nepali state's recent shift to a federal structure. After many years of marginalization, the Khalah finally has some support and understanding within state bodies. At the beginning of 2020, TDK partnered with Folk Lok program. Partnering with the program allowed the Dapha Khalah to break out of the prohibitory past of the insider and outsider dichotomy. The partnership further led to some bold decision making. A year of collaborative research and hosting of various online and in-person discussions motivated the Dapha Khalah to organize an apprenticeship for the first time in the last 40 years. The terms for this apprenticeship was set anew, and the Dapha Khalah conducted a special ritual called Kshama Puja to exercise flexibility. The Kshama Puja, literally meaning a prayer for forgiveness, was held in the beginning of 2021 at main shrine of Nasadya to ensure that both the apprentices and masters remain safe from any bad omens because of their challenge to the restrictive norms. Here, an indigenous tool was used to initiate a new cognitive process. Following the Kshama Puja, the Dapha Khalah invited a community-based women-only finance cooperative to participate in the traditional flute apprenticeship. Folk Lok program added to the encouragement by connecting the local women with practicing women musicians and singers. The women teamed up to organize a formal inauguration of their apprenticeship. The group, which earlier had never partaken in an event of this kind, invited local representatives to observe their initiation. They also invited women-led Dafa groups from another Newar city to perform and engage in an interaction with its members and to discuss the challenges and prospects for women participating in a historical tradition like Dafa. 35 women signed up for training after the inauguration event. The lesson began the next day at the Akache, the Community Learning Center, which earlier was restricted to men alone. Further, despite the earlier prohibition for outsiders to enter the Akache, an outsider instructor for the Folk Lok program was allowed to enter the space to help the apprentices. Folk Lok instructor is easing down the music learning by teaching apprentices basic techniques of transcribing in the presence of the traditional master who have recognized that this is the need. Further, it is very interesting to observe that with the inclusion of women apprentices, other forms of inclusions are taking place naturally. Women have been joined by their children between the ages of 12 to 20. The young school-going children and adolescents have brought along with them their friends of different caste and cultural backgrounds into this traditional space. The Dapha Khalah today has a total number of 45 apprentices. Among them, 30 are women between the ages of 30 to 50 years, and 12 are Newar and 3 are non-Newar children and adolescents. The earlier restrictions for women and outsiders and the prohibition for transcription have fallen, not in absence of elder members or the elder masters, but in their presence, keeping the community values intact. I choose to call this breakdown and flourishment decolonization. So here I end my presentation.